Okay, how carbohydrates are stored. So this is just a little continuation, as now we know that carbohydrates are stored in your muscles as glycogen and in your liver as glycogen. And obviously, technically the third way it's stored is as fat, but it's not carbohydrates now. It's been changed to fat. So yeah, now the other little point that I wanted to add, most importantly, once your carbohydrate stores in your muscles, it also stores with water. So one of the biggest, most important scientific factors is that water, 1 gram of water stores with about 3 grams of carbohydrates. So everything's about glycogen levels in a way. So you need to know what your glycogen level stores are. If your stores are full, you can't put any sugar or carbohydrates in or energy, because then that will have no place to go and it'll get stored as fat. So it's known about where your glycogen levels are. When your glycogen levels are lower, you can eat carbohydrates and they will go into your muscle. Now, for that 1 gram of carbohydrate to store, it needs 3 grams of water. So, for example, I wake up most mornings glycogen depleted. When I have my breakfast with the bagels, now it's only around about, let's say, 100 grams of carbs. Now, if your glycogen levels are depleted and you're having 100 grams of carbs, and you times that by 4, that's only 400 calories. Okay, so when your glycogen is depleted, if you have 100 grams of carbohydrates, that would be considered a lot. I think an average brown rice meal is about 50 grams. I think a bagel's got around 54 grams. So even over my lifetime, around 50 grams in a meal is it's not when I'm starving, not when I'm depleted. When I'm depleted, on average, it feels like I'm taking about 100 grams of carbs. So, and then even with experimentation and checking, yeah, so in the morning when I have 100 grams of carbs, if you times that by 3, it might be 3, 2, 4. So just even on the internet, double check. Some studies say 3, some studies say 4. Let's say 3, 4 max. So if I have 100 grams of carbs, I need to have 3 to 400 grams of fluid just to wash that down. Okay. So furthermore, in the morning, I have about a litre of fluid, and that goes all the way down. So, or maybe 800 milliliters of water. And check. Some people, when they wake up in the morning, they have 250 or 300 milliliters of water. So your body does need water. So in the morning when I wake up depleted, my glycogen stores are very low, so the water's come out, the carbs are low. When I have the carbohydrates, if you're having 100 grams of carbs, you need around about 400 milliliters of water. That's just to put the carbs into the muscle. You then need another, 400 milliliters of water just to go around the body. So yeah, if your coffee's 300 millimeters and then you have a glass of water or orange juice with your breakfast to put that down, then you have a coffee, you're looking at 700 milliliters of fluid that you've taken in, and that weighs 700 grams. So if you had a liter of fluid, that's 1 kilo of water you've taken in. That's not fat weight, that's water weight. You need that. Your body needs water to operate and run efficiently. So yeah, so carbohydrates need water to store in the muscle as glycogen. So the other thing is, when you're training, when you're burning carbohydrates, there's 2 ways to burn carbohydrates. You can burn it with oxygen and without oxygen. So when you're burning carbohydrates, these bonds are getting released, okay? The enzyme is called glycogen. I think the more glycogen you have, the more you can break down the carbohydrates and put it into your bloodstream. So yeah, you need the glycogen. Once the carbohydrates break down, water is released and water will come out of your body. Now, that's just water coming out from the bonds. That's not water. Yeah, that's water coming out from the bonds. And then the other way is that when you burn carbohydrates without oxygen, you get lactic acid. That's another factor that shows that you're burning carbohydrates, not fat. You're giving off water, and then once you're stepping up the intensity even higher, you're building up lactic acid in your body. Once you neutralize the lactic acid, that also has a byproduct of water, so more water comes out. That's not your body overheating and cooling down by sweat. If you train for even longer periods and your core temperature gets even higher, then your body's going to make you sweat, so it cools you down. So When you're burning carbohydrates, you know you're burning carbohydrates because water will be coming out. That won't be sweat from your body cooling down. That's just water coming out from the bonds and water from lactic acid. That's how you know you're burning carbohydrates, okay? So even when people see me train, sometimes they see so much water coming out. That's because I'm hitting my glycogen stores and all that water's coming out. And then if you see me train for even longer, even in the boxing club, it's hot. Then when it gets later on and your core temperature is really hot, then all the rest of the water in your body is being used to cool you down so you can perform. So that's what I wanted to go over. Carbohydrates are stored with water. It's very important knowing that. And yeah, water weight, glycogen weight is not fat weight.